I'm Melody Bates, and we are here at Gowanus Mirror. Welcome. Today, we are going to be talking with Dan Freeman, who is a friend of Gowanus Mirror. He is an artist, producer, bassist, and music technologist. And we get to talk to him, and we're going to see some clips of him performing live. So buckle up, here we go. We're talking with Dan Freeman. Welcome, Dan. Please introduce yourself. Tell us all about where you come from and where you are today.
Hi, my name is Dan Freeman. I am originally from Boston, Massachusetts, but at the moment I'm living in San Jose, Costa Rica.
How did your journey with music start, and what inspired you the most?
I started playing music when I was 4 years old. I come from a family of musicians in my mom's native country of Nicaragua. My grandfather was a musician and my uncles were musicians. And so when I was 4, my mom made me start playing piano. And actually she made all of us play instruments because she really wanted us to play as a little ensemble together. And I started playing piano. I was very young and I just was forced to do it. And I didn't really like it until I was maybe about 11 or 12. And at 11 or 12, I think I realized I was actually getting good enough that I could basically impress people with some of the pieces I was playing. And I guess, I thought I would kind of enjoyed that, just being kind of a nerdy little kid. And then when I was 13, I started playing bass. But I really had the fortune to have had great teachers almost from the beginning. Both my piano teachers at the New England Conservatory of Music Preparatory School, which is where I started. And then when I got into bass and started playing jazz, I also was really blessed with some incredible teachers, whether it was my middle school music teacher or teachers at this camp called Onkrakoda, which is where I studied music in the summers. So my greatest inspiration really have been, the teachers that I've been lucky to have studied with.
Who are your main musical influences?
I think my main musical influences at the beginning were actually, my main musical influence when I started playing music was actually my dad. My dad was a doctor and he played piano, and he would come home late at night after working at the clinic, and he would sit down and he would play piano just to kind of relax and cool down for the next day. So as a kid, I was just lucky because I fell asleep so many nights listening to my dad playing Chopin or Beethoven, which he loved on the piano. And so it's funny because I think Chopin, I still associate it with feelings of comfort and just very good feelings of my dad. As I got older, I was very much influenced by Basically some of the great bass players, especially once I really got into bass. And so I would say that being like, Jaco Pastorius is a huge influence. I was obsessed with Heavy Weather, to the point that at some point I actually did a concert where we played the whole album, note for note. Marcus Miller, Victor Wooten. But, I just love so much music, and I found inspiration in kind of all kind of types of music. So I think, and I guess these days, as I've gotten older as an artist, I just find inspiration from the musicians around me.
What is your most favorite musical instrument, and tell me why?
My favorite musical instrument of all is really the bass guitar, and I've really loved the bass guitar since I was 12 years old. And I really fell in love with it at first sight. I remember still very clearly sitting in a concert at our middle school, where I grew up outside of Boston, and there was this kid playing the bass guitar, and I suddenly became obsessed with it because it had 4 strings and it had a low tone. And I was so obsessed with the instrument that he would leave it sometimes in the music classroom, and when nobody was looking, I would actually sneak into the music classroom and just open up his bass case just so I could touch the instrument and kind of feel what the strings felt like. That's how badly I wanted to play it. So when I turned 13, I begged my mom to buy a bass guitar, and she didn't know what a bass guitar was. So she suggested I buy a guitar, and I said absolutely not. I need a bass guitar, and so we bought a bass guitar, and I've really loved that instrument ever since. These days too, I'm very much in love with Blinky, which is this instrument that I've kind of put together from a bass guitar and some MIDI controllers, including the Ableton Push. But I've just been very fortunate with instruments to really kind of have a really great love for them, and to the point where when I don't play an instrument for a couple days, it kind of really, stresses me out.
How would you describe your music, and what draws you to your preferred genre?
I would say these days the music that I make, I guess you can call it synthwave. I do the last couple of years I've done a lot of electronic music. But yet my background is as a classical and jazz musician. I'm really fascinated with the sounds of synthwave. When we say synthwave, we're talking about kind of a style of electronic music that grew out of the analog and maybe the DX7 synths of the kind of the early to the mid 80s. So I think these days I am doing a lot of synthwave, but yet influenced by also French impressionist composers. I absolutely love Satie and Fauré and Saint-Saëns, and other kind of influences that have come to me through my years of playing jazz and R&B and funk and disco.
What do you pay attention to when you're making a track?
I'd say these days the inspiration for compositions generally comes from other music that I'm really checking out. And in fact, for me, often if I want to be inspired to compose a piece of music, I do an analysis of a piece of music that I really love, whether it's the chord progression of that music, or the melodies, or the bass line, or any of that. I guess these days, just being in Central America, I'm really kind of like becoming more and more fascinated with the musical region, some of the rhythms, but also I'm really fascinated too with harmonies, say, of French impressionist composers, particularly Satie, as I mentioned before. And also in terms of bass lines, recently I've been transcribing some Louis Johnson bass lines. So whatever it is, if I want inspiration, I find it pretty easy in that I just turn. There's so much just incredible music out there that I just turn to a great piece of music and find something in the music that inspires me. But I think on a larger level, I think a lot of inspiration always comes from wherever I suppose I am in life, like internally or externally. The energy of the place that I'm in.
Can you tell us about some of your past performances and events that you remember?
I've had the good fortune to have had really kind of many wonderful performance experiences. In fact, I would say it's like performances have really kind of given me some of the most amazing experiences of my life, and say I'm so fortunate to really have had them. In terms of experience, which ones do I actually remember that really stand out? I guess like probably, interesting enough, I think I remember my first performance ever. I think I was around 4 years old. I was around 4. And I went and I played a little piece on the piano. It was at the Park School in Boston, which was then kind of hosting a program with the New England Conservatory Preparatory School. And then I remember I was so happy because afterwards my mom gave me a Curious George, a little stuffed monkey, which really kind of excited me because I really wanted one. So maybe that was a good way to, I guess, keep my desire to perform going. Other ones that really stand out for me, I think a really magical night was in 2006 when a friend of mine, Russell Graham, who was now part of Chic, asked me to be the bass player for Peter Gabriel's Witness concert. And it was a really magical night because it was we played with the B-52s and Angelique Kidjo, and then Peter Gabriel himself, who's always been a really great hero of mine, came and also sat in with us. So that was amazing. And I guess a third one kind of performance story, which was really magical, it was actually a night that we had a steady gig at the Garage, which was a club in the West Village. And this is around 1999, 2000. And it was right across the street from the Village Vanguard. And so we were playing a set. It was a Friday night. It was kind of early, maybe around 7:30. And we were trio. It was myself and this drummer Sticks Bones and pianist Bob Marbach. And so during a break, a guy walks in and he asks if he can sit in with us and play saxophone. And so, we usually didn't get requests like that. So I guess technically being the band leader, I was like, yeah, sure, man. The guy gets up and proceeds to take the band to really kind of like a next level. It was just kind of this musical ecstasy playing with this guy. I mean, which all really truly great musicians have, where you can literally lift all the players onto a whole other level of, I don't know, kind of like a spiritual and emotional plane. So this guy was and I'm sitting there as we're playing, and this guy is really kind of like taking us to another level, and I'm asking myself, like, who is this? Because this is just incredible. I'm like, can I ask him to join the band? Because like this is just one of the most magical performance experiences I've ever had. So afterwards, after playing it, he kind of puts away his saxophone. And I'm like, man, that's incredible. I'm like, what's your name? He's like, oh yeah, my name is Kenny Garrett. So Kenny Garrett was Miles Davis's sax player, and I'd actually seen him as a kid, but from a distance when I saw Miles' last concert in Boston. And so Kenny Garrett apparently was actually doing a set at the Vanguard across the street, and I guess he just felt that he would kind of warm up with us at the Garage. And it was just a stunning experience because it was really, we were young at the time, I think. Well, Sticks and I were both around 25, and to just kind of see what was possible when a musician of that caliber came, and it really kind of led me to see that great musicians, when they play with a group of musicians, they take everybody up to another level. And so yeah, it was a really great night, and it was also amazing to see how humble like Kenny Garrett was, who really kind of blessed us by just sitting in with us and showing us a lesson.
Are you working on something now, or do you have any future projects?
At the moment, I'm doing a lot of work for this instrument that I've been developing since 2018, which I call Blinky. So I'm just really fascinated with kind of the instruments that are going to be coming in this digital revolution. Instruments that are going to be used to kind of like control these amazing laptop instruments that we have. So these days, Blinky is my main thing, and it's been a really kind of fun journey so far. At this very moment, fortunately, I'm actually studying with Rachel Z, who's an amazing pianist. She's known for her work with Wayne Shorter and Peter Gabriel, and so she's helping me kind of like translate some basically really kind of like jazz piano harmony onto this new instrument. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun, but that's my current project.
Is Gowanus Brooklyn a special place for you, and do you have any hopes for the future of this place?
Yeah, Gowanus Brooklyn is a really special place for me. I've really been coming through Gowanus for years now. I've been in New York since 1997, although I'm not currently in New York, although I still have a place there, so I guess technically in New York. But I got a studio, moved to Park Slope in 2006, and got a studio in Gowanus in 2007. So it's really been about 13 years. And in 2007, Gowanus was very, very desolate and very, very industrial. And so it's really been amazing to see it kind of flourish artistically and see so many cool art spaces and studios and restaurants. And to me, it's like Gowanus was always very inspiring place. I mean, it's on some level, it's really kind of hideously ugly. And the canal, as we all know, it's miserably polluted. And it always fascinated me because amidst all this kind of industrial ugliness, there's such profound beauty. And there's so many just amazing spaces. You could open a door to kind of a nondescript building and suddenly you were inside. Say in the King Killer space on 6th Street, which is a very cool space, place covered in beautiful art. And the studios were like that, or going into an art gallery in Gowanus, or even Mirror in the Woods Tea House, which when you enter, it's just really kind of a magical place for really creative people. So I really loved the time that I've been fortunate enough to have worked and really lived a good part of my life in Gowanus. Because even though I was living in Park Slope, I'd really spend most of my days and part of my nights in Gowanus. So I'm hoping. I haven't been back to New York since really COVID began, and so I hope that when I do come back, Gowanus is still going strong.
Here at Gowanus Mirror, we really believe that art is more and more essential in today's increasingly chaotic world. What do you think about that?
I absolutely believe that art and music are crucial to this, to these chaotic times. And I think art and music do have the power to rehumanize us, and also to really kind of connect us, I believe, with kind of more spiritual planes. I think that's one of the magic things about music, is that when you really kind of go deep into the music, you realize it's magic, because what is it? It's sound waves. And yet these sound waves really have such power. They have the power to make people cry, to make them joyous, which on some level scientifically makes no sense. There's no reason why it's if you connect, say, a wave of 440 hertz with one of 536 hertz, that it just should evoke a certain emotion. But yet it does, and we can't explain why. But I think music is one of the closest things, when you hit that point zero when you're performing or when you're connected to other human beings, it's it makes you realize that there is kind of more than what we see in this world.